This is the grim new reality weighing heavily on the shoulders of millions of Americans after a stunning 3.28 million unemployment claims were filed last week alone, shattering records. That's nearly 5 times the previous high set back in 1982. Beyond the numbers are American workers out of a job.
I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills.
We just don't know. I think it's not knowing is what the problem is.
People are going to end up losing their homes, and, we don't know if we might end up being one of them.
The repercussions of COVID-19 twofold. The devastating number of deaths climbing every day.
Hey friends, Terry here. Just wanted to make this quick video with all the suffering, the job layoffs, the furloughs in this nation. I ran across Robert Morris's video from the 14th of March, which really angered me. He's there telling people that if they're not giving, they're stealing from God. If they're not tithing, then the rest of their finances are cursed. And at a time when people are suffering, are in fear, these pastors are taking advantage of the fear, and they're plundering the people of God. It's very sad, folks, but I wanted to just show you this so you can see what's going on in the churches, what's actually taking place at this time when we're supposed to be helping people. These churches are plundering people, folks. And keep in mind, the churches are not the temple of God. We are not the nation of Israel, and we are not forced to give to the churches, folks. So it's really, really sad what's going on. If you want to give to a church, give to a church. But we're not required, and we are not under the law of Moses.
Okay. All right. So when Ethan and Lane began dating, we had a young adult service, and it was in the sanctuary. And they were down here talking with a group of about 6 or 7 of them after the young adult service, and they got to joking with Ethan about what it's like to date the pastor's daughter. And when Ethan came to meet me to talk about dating Elaine, I told him, you have to date me first. And if you can get by me, then, you get the prize. But nobody's gotten by me yet. And I did the normal, I really was not mean. I did normal things that a father would do if someone wants to date his daughter. I gave him a blood test, looked at his bank accounts, his IRA records. I just showed him my gun collection. Normal things that a father would do. Okay, but anyway, they're down here joking about it. And then one of them says to Elaine, your dad is so strong on tithing. I'll bet he even checks the tithing records of the guys that want to date you. And Elaine said, he does. And I did.
So in other words, your tithing is not between you and God alone. If Robert Morris deems it necessary, he's going to take a look at it.
And let me ask you a very simple question, and I really don't mean, I'm not trying to be mean, please hear me. But why would I give my daughter to a thief? And those aren't my words, those are God's words. We read some of them last week. You've robbed me. You've stolen from me, he says in Joshua. You've stolen from me. You've taken what didn't belong. So, and let me say another way. Why would I give my daughter to a man that can't even handle money?
So here Morris is actually saying, if you're not tithing, you can't even handle money. So this little remark was for the people of Gateway to know that, hey, if you can't tithe, you can't handle money.
I mean, if he can't handle money, he definitely can't handle Elaine, because Elaine is a handful. So, but anyway, let's say, so it's 10% of 1,000, and that's $100, okay? So you got 10 $100 bills in your hand. So we already decided one $100 bill, that's God's tithe. That's God's, all right? But here's the second question. Which one? You got 10 of them in your hand. So which one is God's? Well, we say the first one, but let me help you realize which one the first one is. It's the first one to leave your hand. In other words, if you go home and you say, let me set aside some for the mortgage company and some for the electric and some for food and some for clothes, and here's God's portion. That's not God's portion. You gave God's portion to the mortgage company. And the mortgage company has lots of problems, by the way. And they cannot bless your finances. Here's what happens a lot, is I gotta do this, I gotta pay this bill, I gotta pay this bill. Uh-oh, there's not enough left over for God. And what you're forgetting is that the first one redeems the rest. The first one brings the other 9 out from under the curse.
Wow. Here, the master manipulator, Robert Morris, is telling you that if you're not giving 10% to Gateway, your finances are cursed. The only way that you can get out of the curse is to give 10% of your money to Gateway. You're under the curse. You're cursed. So Robert Morris is not only pronouncing curses on the people of Gateway, he's telling you the only way you can redeem yourself is by giving 10% of your money to Gateway Church.
The first one brings a blessing on your home. So here's how this works in my home, okay? I get paid every 2 weeks, the 15th and the 30th or the 31st, last day of the month. It magically appears in my account.
No, Bob, it doesn't magically appear. The money that you're forcing these people to pay is going straight into your bank account. It's not magic, it's manipulation.
Okay. Some people set it up as an automatic, and I think that's wonderful. I think that is wonderful. For me, I still like to go in and do it. Ethan, my son-in-law, got his degree in accounting, fabulous steward, and Josh, they set it up just automatically so they don't forget, you know? I was asking James, my son, the other day, because James is a lot like I am. I said, do you do it automatic or do you go online and pay it? He said, I go online and pay it. Because he and we just want to do that. We just want to make sure we do it. But I think it's great to set up as automatic. I think that's fantastic, especially if you think you might forget, okay? But so on the 15th and 30th, when I'm having my quiet time, spending time with the Lord, I go online and I send it. So it's the first thing that leaves my account. Now, I have to say something because God told me to say this in this message.
No, Robert Morris didn't hear from God. This is Robert Morris inserting himself as the high prophet, the one receiving special revelation from God. And this is designed for one thing and one thing only, and that's to get more money for Gateway Church.
And I've said, Lord, I don't want to act like I'm trying to brag on Debbie and me, because I'm not. But the reason I have to say this is because God's calling some of you to do this, okay?
So much for the Bible where Jesus told us to do our giving in secret and not be like the Pharisees. No, Robert Morris here is bragging. He's telling you, hey, I give 20%. Look at me. I've done it since 1985. Even though Jesus said not to do this, Robert says, I can do it. I'm not bragging, but he is bragging.
So since 1985, 35 years now, Debbie and I give 20% tithe to the local church. So we just felt like God told us to do that in 1985. So the first 20%, if you were to look at my account, there's a deposit. And then, of course, that deposit is less because of retirement taken out, taxes taken out, all that. But so that amount is much more than that, but it's 20% of the gross.
Oh, this was a really nice move that Robert made. He tithes off the gross. He wants his people to tithe off the gross. So if you're making $100,000 a year, and let's say the IRS takes, let's say 25%, you're left with 75. He wants you to tithe not off of the 75 to give 20%, but 20% off of the 100. So now on that 75, let's subtract 20,000. You're down to 55,000. Isn't that convenient? It works out really good for Gateway Church, doesn't it?
And that's what you tithe on, is the gross, okay? So we give then immediately. That's way. So let's just say, though, that's the 15th of the month, and I forget, and I have to get up early, and I have an early morning flight, and I forget that it's the 15th, and I fly out, and I do meetings all day, and then that night I go back to the hotel, and I think to myself, uh-oh, it's the 15th, and I didn't do the tithe this morning. And then I go online, and I notice that Debbie went to the grocery store that day. I don't say to her, oh, that's great, sugar, we're cursed. You took part of the tithe and, gave it to Kroger's, and so we're cursed now. Or wait a minute, let me make this more applicable for Debbie. You gave it a central market, and we're broke now. Okay. No, I don't do that. Here's why. Because I'm not legalistic about it. Here's what I want you to know, though. God is not legalistic about this. I am not preaching legalism to you. I'm not at all. I'm asking you where your heart is.
What a bold liar this man is. He says he's not legalistic. He's putting you under the law. And if you put yourself under the law, you are subject to all of the law.
I'm telling you about a principle in Scripture that God says, will you put me first in every area of your life, including your wallet, your checkbook? Will you put me first?
Friends, this is what's happening in the churches. There's no shame. These greedy men have no shame whatsoever. People are suffering across this land. People are suffering in the churches. But it doesn't matter how bad you're suffering. They want to make sure that their business is well funded.